Baby shark.
Ah! In case you're wondering.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of In Case You Were Wondering. I'm Chris.
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Amber.
And guess what? We are continuing in our exploration here of X-Men 97. Just last time, in episode 4, we looked at the trailer, 2 different trailer videos, and did our reaction to those. And we just ended up finishing episodes 1 and 2 of X-Men 97, and I've got to tell you, it blew my mind.
It was amazing, I have to say. How about you, Amber?
I thought it was really cool because it was like, you know how you watch like the series and then you go from, okay, this is great, and then you're thinking, oh, this is cool that it, like when we were thinking of the last episode, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But if you've seen it, we were thinking of it was like a next day technically kind of thing, even though it was more of like a year lapse, because it's like they're still trying to get used to things without Xavier. And
yeah, they really don't pull any punches. I mean, Xavier is dead, and now we've got this X team, and they're really trying to figure out who are we going to be without Xavier, and so that's huge. I feel like before we get too far into the weeds of this episode, we want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe right there on the bottom. I know we're all doing this move means hit that subscribe button.
You're taking my job.
You guys know what to do. Amber, go ahead and do the thing.
Oh, Julie. No.
Julie, do the thing.
Okay, go click the subscribe button.
All right. She told you guys what to do. You've done it before. Make sure that you subscribe for more content, and we really do appreciate the love and support. Make sure you also leave a like and a comment right
Leave
there.
your recommendations for anything that we could watch, whether it be a YouTube video, a new show, or
music or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want us to do.
We really are open as far as topics that you guys are interested in and you want to see more. We are already looking at more content regarding anime.
Yeah. So we do want to talk about this real quick. It's like we're thinking of Demon Slayer. We're starting from the beginning, so we probably may do season 1 per episode. So every season's, so there's going to be at least 4.
Yeah, we are definitely excited about Demon Slayer. If you guys like anime and Demon Slayer, you want to tune in for that one when it comes up here soon.
Definitely.
Other thing that's huge, even though we've only been a channel for about 2 weeks now, we are getting really, really close to 50 subscribers. And we had decided that once we hit 50 subscribers, we would do something special for you guys.
And you know what that is.
I think we're going to find out what that special thing is. And if you guys want to find out what that special thing is, help us get to 50 subscribers. I promise you will not be disappointed. All right. I feel like that's enough of a teaser. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. Episode 1, I feel like, was really dealing with the aftermath of the X-Men with the loss of Xavier.
Yeah.
There's a lot that was going on. What's one thing that kind of stood out to you here from episode 1?
It was...
We're kind of building that idea of like a central story. We have Cyclops and Jean wanting to leave the X-Men for the safety of their family. And I think that we all, if you are a part of a dangerous job such as being a firefighter or a policeman, understand like how that feels. And we see that Cyclops struggles with the idea of leaving because he feels an obligation to the team.
I mean, they've been raised here at the school.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a sanctuary for them. It's been a family for them, and so for them to realize that it's going to be hard for them to still be superheroes, fighting battles and putting their lives at stake. How do you raise a child?
Yeah.
in
Can
the
you
midst of
also
all of
imagine
that.
like Cyclops being like an accountant, like going from a life of protecting from crime and stuff to, can I please see your statement bills and everything like that, your taxes?
You didn't file your TPS reports. Yeah, I don't know exactly what Cyclops would do if he wasn't leading the X-Men, but it is a big giant question. I've got to say one of the scenes in the very first episode that I loved with Cyclops, the Sentinels have ripped the top of the Blackbird off. They're all plummeting toward the Earth, and one by one, all of the flying members of the team grab those who can't fly, until it's just Cyclops falling by himself. And we're all like, oh great, Cyclops is going to be a greasy smear on the table, until he puts his hands at his sides and flies straight down. And then he releases an optic blast that he sustains, which, crazy as hell, slows his descent, and he makes the most epic of superhero landings I have ever seen.
I think that we see a lot of these changes that, and evolvements that we see from these characters. Like, we see a lot in Rogue and how she can use her powers. We see kind of like a change in her powers in the second episode with the delivering of Jean and Cyclops' baby. And
that was crazy, wasn't it?
That was crazy.
I was like, can you just imagine? It's like the doctor being like, ow, and then it's like, put her on the table, and then like, I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think what was great about it was that here was Rogue very intentionally absorbing the memories and skills from the doctor, who had refused to deliver Jean's baby. And so she took his strength along with the knowledge of how to deliver a baby, and immediately she was commanding all the nurses around. Like, the minute that she had done that, everybody just respected her and did what she said. I still thought that was amazing. In the past, she wouldn't know how to manage those new thoughts and those new skills. Clearly, she's got a little bit more practice with that. The other thing that was crazy had nothing to do with her skills or powers. It had everything to do with her and Magneto. What was crazy about that?
Well, I know it's because in the comics they kind of had like a relationship, or in another universe, whatever universe this is, related to the content of the comic books. But like, I know that to an extent because they were together before she even went to the school and became part of the X-Men.
Right.
So I know that was the reason.
So remember that when she first developed her powers, her ability to steal powers for others, she became a member initially with the Brotherhood, right? And so she had been kind of taken on as one of Mystique's, like her daughter.
Yeah.
And that's where she ends up absorbing the powers of Miss Marvel and getting the ability to fly and have super strength and invulnerability. During that time, though, they are letting us know that she and Magneto had a relationship.
I think definitely. I want to see, Amber, how did you feel about, like, the way that they introduced Magneto and, like, how he's kind of, I want to say, like, bonding with not only Rogue, but the rest of the members of the X-Men?
Well, I kind of thought it was interesting that they had Magneto part of the will, because he kind of had like a tough past, because of the fact of, oh yeah, he kind of double-crossed him, and then like all this, don't trust him anymore. It's a little tricky, like those like love-hate relationships and friendships.
You guys remember that in X-Men issue number 1, the very first issue of the very first comic of X-Men, it is the X-Men versus Magneto.
Yeah.
They have been going at it against each other for a very, very, very long time. And the idea that it seems like out of the blue, that Xavier's dead and now Magneto shows up and he's basically saying, this is my school now. You are my X-Men. That's pretty crazy.
I think, like, especially in the second episode, I personally liked how he chose to go about it because, we always knew Magneto as a force to be reckoned with compared to Professor X, where he was all mental and where Magneto is all physical. And you see this difference in him where he's like, I did not kill them, but they're injured. You know, so it does not take away his character, but you can tell that he is trying. Like, he had the meeting with the judges, but they were thousands of feet into the air and freezing and having a hard time breathing. So he's still showing mercy, but he is not letting the people that hurt others go without, like, a punishment, I would say.
I think my concern, we hear, like it or not, Magneto has been a terrorist. Yeah. He's been a terrorist for a very long time. It would have been too easy for them to just go and say, we're just going to act like decades of terrorism never happened. And now that you're with the X-Men, everything is fine. I'm kind of glad that that Magneto got put on trial. The fact that he chose to prove how truthful that he was by allowing himself to be collared and chained up and put on trial. Mm-hmm. If at least he could prove to the team that he deserves it, I think that said a lot. I was still very doubtful, though, that Magneto was genuine up until that moment.
My favorite line from the whole thing was when Cyclops is handing Magneto a coffee cup.
Yeah.
And he's like, poison? And he's like, dark roast. I'm like, out of all the ways to kill him, wouldn't that be funny if, like, he just, he's been shot multiple times, he's fought off
but then one sip of coffee doesn't.
But one sip of coffee gets him. That would be.
So, the thing I had a rough time with was when it's barely episode 2, and then Storm got hit by that power, like, deflex ray thing.
Yeah.
And that it was affecting her, like, physically, because if you notice, like, right when she got hit, she was getting, like, electrocuted internally.
Yeah.
And then she was doing, like, I don't feel my powers working, so I really hope she comes back. It's just that I don't really remember if that happened to Storm in the comics. I don't really remember.
I don't remember that happening specifically to Storm in the comics. They've always played around with mutant cures and different ways to take away powers.
But they always kind of come back, if I remember.
They've never stayed gone permanently. And I thought Storm's decision to leave might have been a bit premature. But they're really building this conflict of Storm. Who is Storm if she's no longer a mutant? And I think that part's really huge. I feel like we can't have a discussion about the X-Men without talking about the word woke. And I feel like, I know you're smiling, there have been a lot of people, though, who that's part of their criticism of the X-Men, that the X-Men have gone woke. And probably the big thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is this. The X-Men have been woke for a very long time. If you don't understand that the X-Men have always been a symbol of those who have been excluded, about those who have been on the outside, who have not been accepted, whether we're talking about people involved in civil rights based upon the color of their skin or the country they're born in, or by people who are members of the LGBTQ, understand that the X-Men have always represented that, and this X-Men 97 is no different. We see here where Scott and Jean go to the hospital. Well, Jean and Wolverine, go to the hospital. She goes there to have a baby, and a doctor refuses
to perform
the birth for her because she is a mutant. Might as well have been a wedding cake for a gay couple, right? It's the same thing. But I will tell you, it's definitely has its place here in X-Men.
I really like how they are taking, I want to say they're taking both sides really seriously. You have the humans who they feel like they are being not like taken advantage of, but they feel like they don't have any support or anything that goes against the mutants in case they rebel. And I think that's like what they're preparing for, is that all mutants are bad and we need to protect ourselves from them. Because at some point, they believe that the mutants are the only ones who are ever going to survive the future if, like, they continue to live the way that they are. When that's not true, I think that, you know, with the mutants, they always have been, like, we see it even in today. If you were born with a disability or if you were born a certain skin tone, like, you are seen as a threat or you're seen as not capable of certain things, and your life is completely different compared to someone else.
It is definitely true that here on the show, much not too unlike the way things are even right now, is that, you know, on the show, people are very divided.
Mm-hmm.
The divide between mutants and between normal humans has never been wider. And in some ways, you know, the fact that right now the X-Men have a favored status with the UN, but we see this resurgence of the Friends of Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
We see the rise still of Sentinels and everything else. We know that all of this tension is building.
How do you feel, Amber, about, because I kind of want to segue into like the idea of X-Men as a family unit. What did you see in the 2 episodes that we saw? And how do you think Magneto's good side is showing? Like, how do you think he's translating that or doing that?
Okay, so to answer the question of if their bond as a team is more like family related,
Mm-hmm.
I do think so, because it's like you have like Storm and then like Jean Grey. You know, they're kind of doing like that sister bond.
Exactly.
You know, and I actually thought that was really cool to add, because whenever you think of like people who are either going to like foster homes or like if you were in a household with like a foreign exchange student, you tend to become friends with them, or like adopted family member kind of thing. So it's like, I'm happy that they were able to bond due to that they were all mutants, you know?
Yeah.
And they were able to work together.
When you also consider the fact that Storm was an orphan.
Yeah.
You know, she was an orphan. She'd grown up on the streets in Cairo. And so she had no family. In a very real sense, Xavier and the students there at the school and on the X-Men, they really are her family.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jean and Storm call each other sisters,
I thought that was sweet.
Yeah.
I really thought that was sweet.
I think it reminds me of that, you know, whole idea that your blood family is not your only family. You could choose your family, and in some cases, that family is even stronger than the ones that are related to you.
Yeah.
And I really liked it because, you know, where they are playing basketball, and even when Jean is pregnant, you know, she's the referee.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have Wolverine, who is the biggest, baddest, tough guy.
Oh,
who gets to drive her to the hospital.
Well,
Right.
he was kind of doing like the, oh, I have to go, but then Jean's doing like the, oh my god, my stomach hurts, you know, and then he's like, he's coming. He's like, what do you mean he's coming?
Yeah,
He went full on like,
his first like instinct is to think that somebody is in the house.
Is it Apocalypse?
But then
The
when
baby!
she says, like, hey, we're going to the hospital. And then he's like, oh. Like, also to answer your question about what I think about Magneto and how his good side, sweet side, is going through, you know? I think because of the will saying, like, hey, he's giving it to him, I think it's under his wishes of Xavier, and how he knows that even though they had a troubled past, he knows him pretty well, you know, so I think he's trying his best to follow his wishes, even though it's kind of tough to begin with.
Right.
You know, so it's just, like, I really, really hope he doesn't mess it up.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't really see that side of villains going good to, like, sense, if that makes sense.
I think that, like, if anybody has lost somebody that they love, you kind of understand where Magneto is going. He says in like his monologue to Rogue that he's always sensed the presence of him in his head, and he knew that he loved him just as much as Magneto loved Professor X. And now that it's gone, he feels like he doesn't need to try to be evil. He needs to actually help. And that, you know, caring and that brotherhood between the two of them was so strong that he needed to use a helmet to block out the feelings of love and support from who is practically his brother, to actually complete his villainy. And like, if you've ever lost somebody that you care about and you always, you know, had that feeling of them being around or their presence or anything like that, you understand what he's feeling like, and sensing and feeling and accepting that loss of that person that is.
I think there are a lot of characters here in the first 2 episodes that feel the weight of legacy. No one more than Cyclops. Cyclops has always sort of been pushed into leadership amongst the X-Men. But I think definitely with Xavier being gone, Cyclops has felt the burden of keeping the group together and of leading them. And, you know, he says, to me, my X-Men, you know, that iconic line that Xavier always said, he really meant it. I think that when Magneto came in, I think he felt challenged. Like, Magneto's going to come in and he's going to take this away from him. I think that was huge. But I also feel the same thing for Magneto. That Magneto has felt the weight and the burden to honor Xavier's legacy and his memory, and I think that he's taken that very seriously. Yeah. So I think that's a really powerful thing. Before we kind of wrap things up, there are some characters that we had not seen a whole lot of before. The character Morph, who's definitely changed a little bit.
That funny scene where he talks to Wolverine, and he's like, "I'm Jean, and I'm super pregnant," and like the belly gets super big. I that was the first laugh I had of that episode. I think that he kind of gives comic relief a lot.
He does, and yet we've seen it. I felt like there was a good showcase for all of their powers. I mean, in episodes 1 and 2, he turns into Archangel with the metallic wings so he could fly, fighting off the Executioner in episode 2 at the UN for Magneto's trial. He turns into Colossus with the metallic skin. He turned into Psylocke. And so we've already seen he's got this wide range of abilities that he can call on as a part of his character. I think it's really great that they have brought him here as a part of the team.
And we have Beast, who, you know, serves as the X-Men's doctor and former scientist, who sadly had to tell Storm about her loss of her powers. But we definitely see him as the voice of reason in some episodes.
He always has been. I think probably the biggest moment in the entire show came right there at the end, right? You know, Scott and Jean, they're kind of in a place where they're just not ready to leave. And right in the middle of all of that, they get a knock on the door, and who is it?
It's no other than Jean Grey. We don't know what version of Jean Grey it is at this point, but she was at the door.
So this idea of like duplicating Jean Grey, they do it a lot in the comics, right? Like when Jean encounters the Phoenix creates a duplicate of Jean Grey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, our Jean, the one that we know, had been kind of in a psychic cocoon under the lake, and the Phoenix sort of takes on her persona. And now there are two Jeans. One of them, we're going to find out, is Madeline Pryor. And so, work on this.
Also, before you see my face, yes, I am a glowing angel. You could go.
No, the character Madeline Pryor. So the big question we're going to have to find out here is, who did Scott have the baby with?
Yeah.
Madeline Pryor or the real Jean Grey?
That's going to be...
And we're going to find out. I'm sure we're going to find out eventually. And again, since
it's going to be like the Murray show, where it's like, you are not the father.
Right.
You are not the mother.
The crazy part here is this is baby Cable, right? Cable has just been born. If you know anything about Cable's life, you know that he ends up getting infected with the techno-organic virus and then getting sent into the future because that's the only way for him to survive. And so Cable gets raised essentially without his parents.
I think we see a lot of those stories, which I think is really sad, that we see a lot of characters become raised by other people because, you know, their world isn't safe or because it was for their safety. And we see this even in The Flash, where, you know, their daughter ends up saving them and dying in the process. So she, you know, technically does not exist at the end of the day.
Yeah.
In her own timeline, which I think is crazy.
I think the big thing for us to realize, I mean, here we are 2 episodes in, and already a lot of seeds have been planted for where the story is going to go. The love triangle between Rogue and Magneto and Gambit, that's really going to take off here. The drama between Cyclops and Jean and Madeline Pryor and the baby, and then the future of the team and its conflict with the world. I think things are just getting ready to blow up.
And just letting you guys know, I do understand that Flash is DC, and we're talking about Marvel here. I'm just trying to form connections between superheroes here and their disconnection with their children.
Yes,
Continue.
I will allow it. All right. Hey guys, we want to thank you for hanging in there. Just as a reminder, one more time, if you haven't already, if you've watched this far and you have not already gone and subscribed, now is the time. All right, Amber, do the thing. Hey guys, again, thanks for joining us. As always, I'm Chris.
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Amber.
We are in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
Guys, can I say that again? We are, in case you were wondering, and we are signing off.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.